Hey everybody, a viewer to this channel actually sent me in this image right here that we can see and was asking, how can I approach and replicate that feel and look in other images? And so I'm going to show you how to tear something apart like this, but I came up with something like this that has the same feel and essence of that image that this person sent me versus something like this, which tends to work really well with like fine art nudes or portraits. But even in still life, I'm going to show you this one at the very end of the video. So are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves out of the box creatively. Okay, so a subscriber to this channel, I didn't get permission to use his last name, so first name is Jay. He sent me in this image that you can see right here, and I'm going to dissect this image, but he was wondering, how can I take the essence of that and apply it to my images in using Photoshop? So we're going to cover that right now. But before I get into Photoshop and give you some guidelines and rules, if you guys have any questions or suggestions on things, do me a favor. Feel free to email me at my private email address right here at the bottom of the screen. It's stephenphotoartist@gmail.com. And I will, I can't do everything, but I'll try to cherry pick some ideas that would benefit most of the people that watch this channel. Okay, so let's get right into Photoshop right now, and let's dissect that image, and let's create a couple images. Are we ready? Let's do it. Okay, as we jump into this project in the Photoshop, in fact, let's dive into Photoshop right now. It's really important to sort of dissect what this image is about, what might work the best. So I'm going to select these three right here. This is the image I'm going to work with, along with this texture. I'll talk about that later. But this is the image that was sent to me. So I'm going to click on OK. And again, I have no idea who the photographer was on this. And of course, we're sort of guessing at how this was actually approached and done. So I found that in studying this, things that have a plain background is going to work the best. You don't want to have a busy background right here. Let me add a new layer here real fast. And I'm going to grab over here in the toolbox, let's do a pencil right here. And what I want to do is, we have red marked right there. If you take a look at this side here of the background seemed like it is blurred. Now, I'm not talking about the photo. I'm talking about the scratches and textures. If I zoom in on this, you can see a lot of scratches and that. And it seems like the bulk of that is on the actual image itself. So I want to remember that. So when I do the project, I want to remind myself that, hey, let's just apply the texture or scratches over the blurred image. And I'm assuming the image was blurred, or it could be intentional, camera motion where they shake the camera with a slow shutter speed. But again, I don't know who the photographer is. I'm sort of guessing at this. But again, let's have a plain, easy background. It tends to work better. And I can make this work with still life. But again, I'll remind you that it's very important to keep that background very, very simple and plain with a still life. So we'll look at a still life at the end. Okay, let's dive into the project here. So I'm going to start with this image, and this is the texture. I had to go through my library of textures. I found this. You should be able to find something there out on the internet that might be at a free website that you could download. But again, it just got a bunch of scratches. Really, this is done on metal, but because it's got black and gray, this is going to work really well as an overlay blending mode in Photoshop. So let's start with the image. And the first thing I'm going to do here is, in this example, I'm going to grab the crop tool, and I'm going to do a 4:5 crop here. And I'm going to get some people upset here because I'm going to crop the elbows off. So there. Why? Because I can. All right. So again, this is somewhat, abstract as a project here. So anything goes, anything goes. I'm going to do Control J, Command J on a Mac, so I can do a quick before and after later. And I'm going to come to this layer here and right mouse click and choose to create that or convert it to a smart object layer right there. And then let me grab my texture here and we don't need the crop tool there. And I'm just going to click and drag and drop it over my project. Click on OK. Control T, Command T on a Mac. Now it's hard for me to see the outlying area of this image because this image right here, the texture is much larger than my photo. So if I do, instead of, I did Control T, Command T on a Mac to activate the free transform. But if I do Control 0 or Command 0 on a Mac, it pulls out to find the outer corners here. So I can actually grab this. Now I'm going to hold the, well, let's move this in like this. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hold the Shift key so I can readjust this like that. Again, holding the Shift key. So again, I can just make this fit the way I want it to fit on the image and enter on the keyboard right there. Okay, also I'm going to do a right mouse click, and this will make more sense a little bit later. I will convert that to a smart object also. Okay, so with that done, if I go over here to the blending mode at the very top of my stack, I found that overlay or soft light, this is a personal preference by you. I'm just going to go to overlay, which is a little bit more aggressive on that. And then I'm going to come over here to the image now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a blur to this image. Now, it doesn't, you can experiment. It doesn't mean you have to do the blur I'm going to share with you. I just went to a filter drop-down menu, came down to blur, and we got all these different categories. I'm just going to do a Gaussian blur, but again, you might want to try a radial blur or motion blur or something else to be a little bit more creative, but I'm just going to play with this to get the look that I want. And the reason I made this a smart object layer, as you can see right here, if I change my mind on the blur, I could double click on that and it'll open up the Gaussian blur dialog box, and I go back in there and readjust the blur to give it the look that I want. Okay, so I'm gonna click on OK there. I can still tell that that's a person in the background there. Now again, I'm on the same layer, and I'm going to come down to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk because this image is in black and white. So I'm going to choose black and white. And over here in properties, based on the color, you can adjust that. So I might want to wash that out a little bit because I noticed that if I go over here, that's the reference image is pretty well, washed out. Very little contrast in there. So again, that's up to me to play with this. Again, based on the look that you want to get. There's no greens in there. Let's see, a little bit of blues, or cyan, I should say. So again, you're just adjusting this to get the look that you want. And if I feel that's too strong, I might come back over here to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk and choose levels. And then come over here on the slider and maybe just fade that a little bit. You can see how that looks over here, the comparison. So again, but you're the artist. You might not want to do that. You might like it like that. I mean, this is all choices that you get to make. And then the next thing I'm going to do here is I've noticed that we're going to come back to the image here, and this is all blurred. The texture or scratches are blurred, and only the scratches tend to be on the image. So the way I can fix that, and by the way, before I do that, I just had a thought. Let me go over here to the image right here. And actually, I'm going to click on the layer here where the Gaussian blur is at. I'm going to grab my paintbrush, B for brush, and let's make sure it's on the brush. And I'm at 100% opacity. That's fine. I'm going to come in here and paint in this area here, and maybe this area here of her face. And I don't want it that strong, but if I come to here, this is the mask. If I do Alt-click, Option-click on the mask, you can see the mask right there. I would go over here to Properties for Feather, and I would feather that out. And in the density, I'm going to pull that back. So I just want you to see that visually. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down again and just click on the mask. That would be Option-click on the Mac. And I'm going to go over here and play with the density to get the look that I want. So maybe I want a little bit of the eyes to show right there. And so again, if I turn this on and off, actually the mask on and off, so I'm going to hold the Shift key to click on the mask. So you can see before and after. And again, that's your artistic interpretation, whether you want to do that or not. Now that I have that done, I'm going to go to the very top. This will be the last phase of this project, and that is I'm going to, because I made it a smart object layer again, I'm going to go to Filter drop-down menu, choose Blur, and the category again, I'm just going to choose Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to pull that back a bit, and I'm looking at the outer part of the image right here, and say I like that right there. Click on OK to accept that. Now I click on the mask right here, grab my paintbrush again. We'll just do right square bracket to increase the size of the brush. And again, I'm just painting in 100% as much as I want in the image, say like right there. And then again, I'm on the mask right here, and I'm going to go to feather. I'm going to feather that mask out so we can see how the feathering's changing right there. And then I could pull back the density of the scratches. So again, that's your artistic interpretation. How much do you want that to be seen? Okay, so let me zoom in on that a little bit. And again, so you can play with this. You can play with, oh, I don't like the eyes showing up so much, so I'm going to click on the mask over there, and let's pull that density down a bit. So there you can see that I changed it, or maybe I want to go all the way. I mean, that's the beauty of making that a smart object layer. I can change my mind on any of that stuff right there. So again, let me do a quick before and after. Let me click on the bottom one. I'm going to hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac. That's what I started with, and that's what I ended up with. Now, again, I want to emphasize here, this effect tends to work better with a plain background and not a busy background. All right, so let me show you one other example that I pre-built to save time, and that is, hey, let's take a look at doing something called a still life. Will this work with that? Let's take a look. Okay, once again, make sure that you're working with an image like a still life that's got a very simple, plain background to get the best results. So let's dive right here into Photoshop. I did this to save time, so I'm going to close out of this. And the reference one, we'll get rid of that right there. And now I'm not going to save that. Let me go to the open dialog box here. And this is what I did in advance just to save a little bit of time. And I just want to emphasize certain things to think about if you're going to do a still life. This is the original. This is what I ended up with. I did 100% exactly the steps I did in the past project with the young lady there. So again, if you look over here, you got the black and white interpretation of that, the levels to sort of wash it out a little bit, make those adjustments. So everything I did in the first project, I did here. The important thing, though, is the original starting point. I've got a simple, plain background. That tends to work the best with still life. So if you get something very busy, people get confused as to what that is. So over here, again, I could tell that, okay, that's a bouquet of flowers. If you want to blur it more, I mean, that's really up to you, right? So there's a Gaussian blur, double click, and let's just blur more of that. Again, all this is very subjective. You are the artist. You choose what you want to do. But again, I just want to emphasize that I did exactly the same steps as I did on the first project. All right, so hopefully you learned something. If you could do me a favor, and that is like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. And if people that have been following me know that I usually push something out about every week on a Wednesday. Once in a while, I do some bonus videos that are on a Monday or maybe a Friday. All right, so with that done, let's think creatively out of the box, and I mean literally out of the box. Till next time, see ya.